My manager told me I was a threat to this company and had me escorted out. 3 days later, feds stormed in asking for me. But when they told her why I was actually being investigated, she damn near passed out. I was sitting across from Marissa Calder, my manager of almost 5 years, while she quietly destroyed my life. "Your badge is being deactivated," she said, sliding a slim folder toward me like it was a dry HR form instead of the end of everything I'd built. "Pack your things, security will escort you out." Her voice was calm, clipped, rehearsed, like she'd practiced firing me in a mirror. We were on the 38th floor of Hawthorne Equity Partners in downtown Chicago, floor-to-ceiling windows, Lake Michigan shimmering behind her like some kind of cruel backdrop. I'd looked out from this exact room for years, but in that moment the whole skyline felt unfamiliar. "Wrong. You accessed restricted financial records," she continued. "You investigated accounts you had no authorization to view. That's grounds for immediate termination." I kept my eyes locked on her. "Marissa, you know exactly why I looked at those accounts. I showed you the reports, the patterns, the transfers, you know what they are." She didn't blink. "I know you misinterpreted normal business operations." Normal business operations. That was her line. That was the script. I'd spent 3 months uncovering a trail of microtransfers, $9,500 here, $9,700 there, moving through layers of shell accounts before exploding into seven-figure offshore deposits tied to companies that didn't even have websites. I'd flagged everything through proper channels. I'd handed her detailed documentation, and every time she brushed it off. Then last week, suddenly, she'd invited me to dinner, white tablecloth place near the Riverwalk. She offered me a career-elevating opportunity to relocate to Dubai for a strategic audit leadership role. It wasn't a promotion. It was a payoff, a relocation disguised as a reward, a way to remove me quietly. I'd refused. And now I was here. "Sign the severance agreement," she said. "6 months' pay if you agree to stay silent." "I thought you valued integrity," I said. She finally looked up at me, eyes sharp, cold. The face I'd mistaken for mentorship for years now felt like a mask. "Don't lecture me, Alina." Alina. My name sounded cheap coming from her mouth. She pressed the intercom. "Tyler, please escort Miss Morneau out." Security was already outside the door. 4.5 years at this company. Long nights, compliance awards, building systems everyone depended on. And now I was nothing more than a woman holding a company-issued laptop and a dying office plant. Colleagues avoided eye contact as I walked through the open floor. Conversations died. Fingers hit keyboards too fast. Only one person, Jessa, a junior analyst I'd quietly mentored, looked at me with real sadness. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but fear kept her quiet. In the lobby, Tyler cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, you don't deserve this." "I know," I said, because no apology from him could fix the truth. I'd been fired for refusing to look the other way. Outside, the cold March wind cut through my coat. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number I'd memorized weeks ago. "It's Alina," I whispered. "They terminated me." The voice on the other end didn't even sound surprised. "Are you in a safe place?" "I'm walking down Wacker." "Good, keep moving, we anticipated this. Someone will contact you soon." I stopped walking. "What happens now?" A long pause. "Now," the voice said, "things get very dangerous. For all of us." I turned toward the glass building I'd just been thrown out of, and that's when I saw her, Marissa, standing at the window of her office, watching me, smiling. I didn't know it yet, but her next move wouldn't just threaten my job. It would threaten my life. I didn't always see danger in numbers. When I first joined Hawthorne Equity Partners, I was just a 27-year-old compliance analyst from El Paso, Texas, thrilled to land a job in Chicago that people in my hometown called Big League. I'd grown up with parents who believed that math was the cleanest way to find truth. Patterns don't lie, Alina. People do. So when Hawthorne hired me, I thought I'd found the perfect fit. A place where the rules mattered, where accuracy mattered, where the truth mattered. For a while, it felt like that was true. Marissa Calder, my manager, was the kind of woman who walked into a room and everyone straightened their posture by instinct. Precise, brilliant, intimidating in a way that made people compete for her approval. I wasn't immune. I wanted her to see potential in me. And she did, at first. She pushed me hard, but she rewarded me with raises, praise in front of executives, projects well above my level. There were months where I honestly thought she saw me as her successor. And maybe she did, until she didn't. The shift started subtly last November. I'd been reviewing multi-country transfers tied to a special accounts list we weren't allowed to ask too many questions about. But patterns don't lie, and these patterns were setting off alarms. Repeated Tuesday transfers, identical amounts, originating from newly formed entities with no operational footprint. I flagged the first set in an internal report. Marissa returned the file the next day with a sticky note, handled. No further review needed. But the transactions kept coming. And every month they got bolder, larger amounts, shorter intervals, more layering. I started keeping a private ledger at home. A habit my father had taught me when I was 12, and trying to catch my brother lying about stealing money from my chore jar. Patterns tell you what people won't, he'd said. By January, the truth was undeniable. Someone at our company was laundering money, and not small-time laundering, something international, something dangerous. So I went to Marissa again, this time with a full analysis. She didn't yell, she didn't panic. She took me to lunch at a place where the napkins were actual cloth, and the waiter poured sparkling water like it was something sacred. "Elena," she said, smiling too wide, "you're brilliant, but you're inexperienced. These are politically sensitive partnerships. They require flexibility." "Flexibility doesn't cover illegal transfers," I told her, her smile dimmed. "You're thinking too small. We have an opportunity for you. A major one." Then she dropped the offer: Dubai, 6-figure salary, international exposure, immediate relocation, except the timing was wrong, and the way she pushed it felt wrong. And the silence when I asked, "Why me?" felt like an answer she couldn't gift wrap. That night, I sat in my 600-square-foot apartment, staring at the skyline lights reflecting off the lake, and I knew I wasn't being promoted. I was being removed. So I made a choice I never thought I'd have to make. I contacted someone outside the company, a man who introduced himself only as Agent Carter Hale from a federal financial crimes unit. He didn't mince words. "What you found isn't just suspicious, it's part of something we've been chasing for years." For 3 months, I lived 2 lives. By day, a quiet compliance specialist copying spreadsheets. By night, an informant passing encrypted files to a man whose real name I never got. I didn't trust Marissa. I didn't trust Hawthorne. But I trusted the numbers. And the numbers told me one truth with absolute clarity. Someone at Hawthorne was doing something very, very illegal. What I didn't know, couldn't have known, was how deeply connected Marissa was to all of it. Or how far she would go to stay untouched. The day after Marissa fired me, Chicago felt sharper somehow. Colder. Every sound seemed too loud. Every stranger looked like they might be watching me, even though I knew that was probably paranoia, or hoped it was. I walked for almost an hour before I finally stopped at a coffee shop on Wacker where Agent Hale told me to wait. He'd said someone would contact me, but he didn't say when, or who, or how. So I sat there with a cooling chai latte, staring at the building where I used to work, trying not to look like a woman who just lost everything. My phone buzzed with messages from people I once would have called work friends. "Elena, what happened? Marissa said you breached security protocols. HR says you accessed restricted accounts. Not one of them asked if it was true. They just wanted to know the gossip. Only one message hit differently, Jessa S. Elena, please tell me you're okay. I know you didn't do anything wrong." I didn't reply. It felt safer not to. At 2:14 p.m., a man in a gray coat slipped into the seat across from me like he'd been sitting there the whole time. Early 40s, clean cut, not memorable. Exactly the kind of man you forget instantly. "Elena Morno?" he asked without looking up. "Yes." He slid a phone-sized, encrypted device across the table. "Agent Hale is off-grid for the next 48 hours. You'll communicate through this until he's back." "Off-grid? Why?" He didn't answer. Instead, he said, "We need you to head home. Do not stop anywhere. Do not contact anyone. Do not post anything. And do not, under any circumstances, return to Hawthorne." I stared at him. "You think I'm in danger?" He paused for half a second. It was enough to tell me yes, even if his mouth said, "We're taking precautionary measures." After he left, I walked the mile back to my apartment with adrenaline buzzing under my skin. I checked behind me at every intersection. I kept my head down when crossing near parking lots. I held my keys between my fingers the way women are taught to do in self-defense classes. By the time I reached my door, my heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Inside, my apartment felt too quiet, too still. I double-locked the door, checked the windows, even opened the bathroom shower curtain like some horror movie cliché. I sat on my couch and forced myself to breathe. This was temporary, just until the feds moved forward, just until they raided the company, just until Marissa and whatever executive cabal she'd been covering for was exposed. Except the more I thought about her smile in the window as I left the building, the more I realized something unsettling. She didn't look scared, she didn't look angry, she looked satisfied, like she believed she'd already won. Around 9 p.m., the encrypted device vibrated. A text appeared. Stay alert. There was unusual activity at Hawthorne HQ tonight. Multiple senior executives entered after hours. No one's seen leaving yet. I typed, define unusual. 3 dots appeared. Then, files being removed, data being scrubbed. Someone knows you talked. My stomach dropped. Marissa. She must have traced my activity logs. She must have seen the patterns of what I'd been accessing. She must have realized I didn't stop when she told me to. The device buzzed again. If they know you cooperated, things may escalate fast. Stay inside. Keep lights low. We'll update when we have movement. I stood, walked to the window, and pulled the curtains tight. Only then did I notice something I hadn't before. A black sedan idling across the street. No movement, no lights on, just waiting, watching. My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. Elena, we need to talk, immediately. It was her, Marissa. And somehow she had my personal number. I stared at the screen, the message glowing in the dark. Marissa called her. We need to talk. Now, my pulse jumped. I didn't answer. Instead, I waited. 15 seconds passed. Then my phone lit up again, this time a call. Her name on the screen looked unreal, like my phone was glitching. I let it ring out. A text followed instantly. If you want to survive the next 24 hours, you'll pick up. Survive. Before I could think, the encrypted device buzzed too. Do not speak to her. She's compromised. She may be attempting contact to gather intel. I read both messages again, my hands shaking. The Fed said she was compromised. She said I needed to talk to survive. Someone was lying. And the terrifying part? I didn't know who. The phone buzzed again, another call from Marissa. Against every instinct, I answered, but I didn't say a word. Elena, her voice was lower than usual, urgent. Listen very carefully. You're in danger. I almost laughed. You fired me, you destroyed my career. Why would I listen to anything You're in danger because I fired you. A breath. And because you didn't take the offer. The Dubai offer. The relocation. The golden parachute that wasn't golden at all. You weren't supposed to be here anymore, she continued. You weren't supposed to still be in Chicago. Yeah, I said. I figured that part out. No, you didn't. Her voice cracked slightly. I'd never heard that from her. Elena, they were going to disappear you quietly overseas. New environment, new paperwork, new incident. You'd vanish and no one would ask questions. My blood ran cold. My mouth went dry. That's why you pushed the transfer, I whispered. Yes. She didn't hesitate, no apology, just the truth dropped like a bomb. I was trying to get you out before they targeted you. I pressed my hand to my forehead. You're lying, you're just trying to save yourself. Elena, I'm already finished, she said. They've wiped half the servers. Executives are burning evidence. I've been cut out since this morning. But they know you talked. They know you turned everything over. I felt the world tilt sideways. How would they know that? Because, she said, voice trembling now, someone inside the investigation told them. I froze. What? There's a leak inside the task force, she whispered. Someone feeding information to Hawthorne's upper tier. I don't know who, I don't know how high up it goes. But they knew about your contact the second you made it. My breath felt lodged in my throat. The encrypted device, the gray-coated courier, Agent Hale going off-grid. Everything replayed through a new lens. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't, she said, but you need to understand something. The people behind this aren't just laundering money. They're funding operations the federal government won't touch publicly, and they will kill anyone who threatens that pipeline. I felt my knees weaken. I sat down hard on the couch. Elena, they already sent someone to watch your building. My eyes snapped toward the window, the black sedan, still there. Who are they? I asked, voice barely audible. Who's watching me? A long, heavy pause, then she said it. The same people who took out Talia Novik. My heart dropped into my stomach. Talia didn't resign, Marissa added softly. She didn't move, she didn't disappear. Another pause. She was murdered. The encrypted device vibrated violently in my hand. A new message appeared. Elena, step away from all windows, do it now. I dropped to the floor. And through the glass, headlights from the black sedan snapped on, aimed directly at my building. I crawled across my living room floor, heart punching against my ribs, as the black sedan's headlights burned through my curtains like two white-hot eyes. I pressed my back against the wall, trying not to breathe too loudly, trying not to think about the fact that someone had been sitting out there, waiting for God knows how long. The encrypted device buzzed again. Elena, agents en route. Stay low, move away from exterior walls. I forced myself to move, inch by inch, until I reached the hallway near my kitchen where the lights didn't hit. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped both devices. Another message pinged. We need you out, you cannot stay in that apartment. No kidding, my phone buzzed. Marissa again, don't go with them. My vision blurred for a second. Between the adrenaline, fear, and confusion, my chest tightened until it felt like breathing through a straw. The feds say get out. Marissa says don't go with them. Someone is lying. Someone is trying to help. Someone wants me dead, and I had no idea which was which. The sedan's engine revved. Slow, controlled. Like whoever sat behind the wheel was enjoying the tension. I swallowed hard and typed into the encrypted device, "Prove you're really the task force." 3 dots appeared. Then, Agent Hale authorized this channel. Code sequence. Sable 14X, I recognized it. I'd seen that sequence printed, barely visible, on the corner of the first encrypted file Hale gave me. Then another message came in, rapid. 2 agents will knock. Phrase is coffee on Wabash. If they don't say exactly that, do not open the door. My mind spun. Protocols within protocols. Verification phrases. This felt real. But so did Marissa's terror. I took one steadying breath and made a choice. Not trust. Not blind faith. Pattern recognition. If the task force was compromised, and based on what Marissa said, at least someone was, then going with the first agents who arrived might drop me straight into the hands of whoever wanted me erased. But if I stayed here, if I waited too long, that sedan outside wasn't just idling for ambience. I stood up slowly and scanned my apartment for anything worth taking. I grabbed my dad's old leather notebook, the one where I'd mapped every suspicious transaction. My laptop, personal phone, external drives, my passport, a hoodie, a pair of cheap sneakers, nothing that would slow me down. A loud crack echoed through the street car door slamming. They were getting out. I stuffed everything into a backpack and moved toward the back of the apartment, away from windows, away from the line of sight. Another message from the encrypted device. ETA 2 minutes, stay put. Another from Marissa. If you leave with them, you'll never be heard from again. Trust me, please. I hated that last word, please, because for the first time it sounded real. A knock rattled the door, 3 taps. Even, too even, then. Elena, it's federal agents. Coffee on Wabash, we need to move. Now. The right phrase, the exact phrasing. Before I could reach the peephole, the encrypted device buzzed again. Do not answer that door. Those are not our agents. My blood froze. Then another message. Exit now, fire escape, go. I backed away from the door as a shadow moved under the crack. Someone outside, 2 someones, at least. The knocking turned into pounding. Elena, open the door, a man barked. Not calm, not professional. And that's when I knew whoever was outside wasn't there to protect me. They were here to take me. I threw open my bedroom window, swung my leg onto the fire escape, and climbed into the cold Chicago night, backpack tight against my spine, fear clawing at my throat, and only one thought anchoring me. If they wanted to hunt me, I'd make damn sure they regretted it. The metal fire escape groaned under my weight as I climbed down, cold air cutting through my hoodie like needles. Chicago wind has a way of making everything feel hostile, even when it's not trying to kill you. I reached the 2nd floor landing when my apartment door upstairs burst open. Splintering wood, heavy boots, shouts, too late. They were inside. I forced myself to keep moving, one rung at a time. The alley smelled like diesel and old rain, and the narrow brick walls swallowed the street noise into a hollow echo. Halfway down, my phone buzzed, this time the encrypted device. Turn right. Don't go into the street. They have eyes on the main roads. I hit the ground and immediately crouched. A black SUV rolled slowly past the alley opening. Tinted windows, no plates, they were sweeping the area. I slipped into the shadows and sprinted right, my sneakers slapping against wet concrete. The alley forked near a dumpster, and I took the darker path, weaving through gaps between buildings until the sounds of boots and radios faded. I leaned against a wall, breath shaking. I needed a plan, a real plan. Then the encrypted device buzzed again, an incoming call this time. I answered in a whisper. What do I do? But the voice on the line was not Agent Hale, or the courier, or anyone I'd ever heard before. Elena, a woman, measured, calm, too calm. Who is this? I demanded. You need to stop running. Not a threat, a statement. I'm not stopping anywhere until I know who I'm talking to. I work with Agent Hale, she said, and I'm the reason he went off-grid. My entire body went cold. What do you mean? There's a breach in the task force, high level. Someone feeding intel to Hawthorne, a beat. Someone Hale trusted. A nauseating wave rolled through me, a leak inside the investigation. Marissa called it first. Now this unknown woman was confirming it. Who is it? I whispered. We don't know yet, but we know who they report to. Who? Silence. A kind that felt heavier than words. Then she said it. Agent Carter Hale. I felt the world tilt. No. No, that doesn't make sense. He wasn't off-grid, the woman continued. He was detained for attempting to extract evidence without authorization, evidence he intended to return to Hawthorne. No, I repeated, shaking my head. He came to me first, he told me everything. He told you what you wanted to hear, a pause, and you believed him. Footsteps echoed deeper in the alley. I crouched lower, clutching the phone. You're lying, I hissed. Elena, think, her voice softened. Every suspicious transaction you flagged, he asked you to gather more. Every document you delivered, he insisted on direct transfers. He steered you toward high-value accounts that only someone inside Hawthorne would know about. The truth hit like a punch. Hale always knew exactly which accounts mattered, exactly which servers had backdoor logs, exactly which executives to watch. And he never looked surprised. Not once. My breath hitched. So I've been feeding intel directly into their hands. Yes. No sympathy in the answer, just fact. A shadow moved at the end of the alley. Elena, the woman said sharply, you need to listen now. Hale's people are the ones in your apartment. They're the ones in the SUV. They're the ones trying to grab you before you reach us. Us, my voice cracked. We're the legitimate task force, she said, and we need you alive. Another shape stepped into view, tall, male, moving fast. Elena, the woman said, urgency rising. Do you see a back gate near a brick loading dock? Yes. Run to it now. The man started sprinting. Elena, go. I bolted toward the loading dock, feet pounding, lungs burning as the man behind me shouted, stop. Now, I didn't turn around. Because everything in my gut, everything I'd survived this long, told me one truth. Stopping meant dying. I don't remember how long I ran. My brain split into two tracks. One tracking footsteps behind me, the other replaying every moment with Agent Carter Hale, and realizing none of it was what I'd believed. I reached the loading dock and slipped through the narrow iron gate just as the man chasing me hit the alley corner. I flattened myself against the wall, breath ragged, heart thrashing against my ribs. For a few seconds I let myself feel stupid. Used, played, then the encrypted device buzzed. Don't stop, the unknown woman said. You're close. Close to what? I hissed. Another lie, another setup. No, she said. Close to the truth. And it's worse than you think. I wanted to scream. Tell me why Hale did this. Tell me why I was targeted. You weren't targeted, she corrected. You were built into the plan. Her words landed like ice water down my spine. What does that mean? You were hired because of your background, your pattern recognition skills, your clean record. They needed someone believable, someone idealistic, someone the real task force would trust. No, I whispered, but the denial felt thin, weak, dissolving even as I said it. You think Hawthorne influenced my hiring process, my interviews, my moves. They didn't just influence them, Elena, they designed them. A beat. They placed you exactly where you needed to be. My knees nearly buckled. All those years of thinking I'd earned my place. All the nights I worked late to impress Marissa. Every accolade, every project, every opportunity. It wasn't mentorship. It wasn't talent. It was grooming. For what? I demanded. Why choose me? Why use me? The woman's next words were barely above a whisper. To erase Talia Novik. I felt the world tilt. What? When Talia uncovered the laundering pipeline, she continued, Hawthorne's leadership panicked. They needed to replace her with someone just as skilled, someone who would naturally uncover the same trail. Someone the real task force would take seriously. So they could feed information through me, I said slowly, while also controlling what I found. Yes, Hale supervised that part. Every breakthrough you had was nudged. Every discovery was guided. My stomach twisted. So Talia wasn't murdered because she was a threat, I breathed. She was murdered because she noticed the pattern too early. Yes, my throat closed. The cold wind couldn't touch the ice inside me. And you, I said, my voice shaking not with fear, but with the beginning of something sharper. You're telling me Marissa knew all of this? The woman hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. She knew, the woman finally said. But she didn't know she was disposable too. She thought she was protecting you from the machine. But she was protecting the machine from you. I pressed a hand over my mouth. The betrayal wasn't messy or emotional. It wasn't fueled by jealousy or greed. It wasn't personal at all. It was structural, systemic, engineered. Marissa didn't ruin my life because of spite. She did it because it was the plan. A plan created by people who saw me as a variable, a tool, a controllable asset. Why tell me this now? I asked. Because, she said, voice flattening into something grave, Hale's team isn't just trying to capture you. You hold evidence that wasn't supposed to exist. Your private ledger, your notes, your personal copies of the flagged accounts. I froze. How do you know about those? Because, she said, that ledger is the only thing that can break this open. A beat. And Alina, they will kill you before they let that happen. I closed my eyes, not from fear, but because the rage was so sharp it felt clean. Cold, focused, alive, and I finally understood what I needed to do. Revenge isn't loud. It's not dramatic car chases or rooftop confrontations or last-second rescues. Real revenge is quiet, calculated, disguised as survival. The woman on the encrypted line gave me one last instruction. Head east. There's a service tunnel near the river. We'll meet you on the other side. I didn't trust her. I didn't trust Marissa. I didn't trust a single federal badge after learning Hale wasn't what he pretended to be. But I trusted myself. And I trusted the one thing that had never lied to me, the patterns. I didn't go east. I went north, toward the river but far from the tunnel she mentioned. I slipped through the cold Chicago night like a shadow. My backpack bouncing against my spine, my dad's ledger safe inside, my mind sharper than it had ever been. If they wanted me alive, they'd chase. If they wanted me dead, they'd hunt. Either way, I wasn't hiding anymore. By the time I hit the North Branch, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to expose Hawthorne through the compromised task force. I wasn't going to trust the unknown, legitimate agents, either. I wasn't going to hand over the only leverage I had. I was going to burn them all from the outside. I found a 24-hour parking space 2 blocks from Goose Island. My clothes were damp, my hair stuck to my face, and the receptionist barely glanced at me when I slid cash across the counter. Good. I needed anonymity, not comfort. In a small, dimly lit booth, I opened my father's ledger. The notes, the dates, the shell company connections, the accounts Hale steered me toward, the hidden ones I found on my own, the ones I never handed over. I connected my external drives, uploaded everything to a cloud system I'd set up weeks earlier under a false name, insurance I hoped I'd never need. For the first time in months, I saw the pattern fully. Not just laundering, not just offshore accounts, not just illicit pipelines, it was bigger. A multinational financial spiderweb feeding money into black-budget operations the government could never publicly acknowledge. Hale's task force wasn't an investigation. It was a collection system, a filter, and I had the raw, unfiltered data. At 3:42 a.m., I made the move they never expected. I didn't send the evidence to the feds. I didn't leak it to a journalist. I didn't publish it online like some amateur whistleblower. I sent it to 4 different countries' intelligence watchdogs, all with competing interests, all hungry to expose American corruption when it benefits them. I sent it to a nonprofit specializing in financial crime, the kind with subpoena power and no political allegiance. And I sent it to a class action law firm known for tearing corporations apart piece by piece. A global feeding frenzy. The kind nobody could stop. When the final upload confirmation flashed across the screen, a weight slid off my chest. I wasn't just exposing them, I was detonating the whole system. At 4:07 a.m., I got the final message from the unknown woman. "Elena, they know what you did. You need to come with us now." I typed back, "Too late. The evidence is everywhere." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Elena, you have no idea what you've unleashed." My reply was immediate, "Neither do they." I powered off the encrypted device, removed the battery, crushed it under my heel. Then I walked out of the parking space into the icy morning air, no longer scared, no longer hunted. Just dangerous. Later that afternoon, news alerts exploded across every platform. International investigations. Asset freezes, indictments. Hawthorne's CEO detained, executives fleeing the country, financial markets rattled. The machine was eating itself alive. As for Hale, he was arrested by people higher than anyone he'd ever betrayed. Marissa. She cooperated with 3 agencies to save her own skin, but the truth still swallowed her whole. And me? I left Chicago, new name, new city, new life. I don't hide, I don't run, I just watch the patterns. And if corruption ever tries to use me again, I'll burn them from the inside, the same way I burned Hawthorne. Because they were right about one thing: a woman who sees the patterns is dangerous. And I intend to stay that way.